Low-income people of color over-index in games. They play more, they play for longer periods of time. People did not consider careers in tech.
There's a very big push for programming in tech, which is fantastic. There's also a lot of other things that people just don't really think of.
You don't need to be a programmer to be in tech.
We really don't know what skills to actually teach them. In 5 years, 10 years, they might be obsolete. Don't ever tell them that.
Yeah, because they're not going to sign up for the deeper learning pyramid, are they?
Exactly.
Right? You, a military veteran, are a noob at Gameheads, and she's a veteran.
She could teach me just as how much I teach her about stuff.
We don't perform well in STEM.
Based off a tutorial on how to make the video game Snake, which is kind of funny. I'm using Python to make Snake.
I caught the joke, man. I heard it.
And making sure that everyone has the same experience that I had the first time. I really value that.
Games have been an avenue about how to teach.
The gaming piece is already a part of what they like. Pay close attention to what they don't learn in school. People don't really spend a lot of time exploring culture. I put that into the class.
So you wanted to be a physician, anesthesiologist. How did it go over when you started saying, I'm interested in video games? Gameheads is a response to a need for better jobs here in Oakland. While working as a teacher, Damon Packwood saw students go away, get degrees, then come home to badly paid work. Tech was booming right nearby with all those high-value jobs. This episode is focused on a key principle in economics, scarcity. That's when demand for a resource is greater than what's on offer. Scarcity can limit choices, limit opportunity. The scarcity we'll look at here is not job openings. What was scarce were skills needed to get those jobs. Let's find out more about how Gameheads created a way to use cool and fun to teach the expertise that's the key to tech jobs, creative jobs, and a run up the economic ladder. So Damon, the key skill that you're teaching here isn't really game design, is it? What is it?
Oh man, what's the key skill or skills? One thing that I used to obsess over when I started the program was the deeper learning pyramid. I think the conversation in the Bay Area was about how are working class communities in the Bay Area going to survive if you see the tech industry kind of growing, right? And tech is growing so fast that we really don't know what skills to actually teach them, because in 5 years, 10 years, they might be obsolete. So like, what skills do they need in order to be prepared for the future?
You want the transform to look at the player, so it'll automatically like switch and try to look at the target, right?
And then I saw this thing called the deeper learning pyramid, which I got obsessed with. And the deeper learning pyramid is communication, collaboration, creativity, problem solving, learning how to learn, and having an academic mindset. So that's the core of what we teach, even though I never tell the students that. Like, don't ever tell them that.
Yeah, because they're not going to sign up for the deeper learning pyramid, are they?
Exactly.
Right?
Or it could be deeply intellectual or whatever. It's up to you. I'm not here to tell you what to do.
When you think about the fact that almost every educator says that our education system is antiquated, right? The issue is not that you can't teach them that stuff. It's that we can't teach them that stuff anymore. Our current systems are antiquated, and the world is just way more complicated. So it's like, what is the best way to teach them about these really complex systems using video games? What we did is we took it a step further. We're not gonna use the video games to teach them. We're gonna have them teach complex systems by creating video games and then making other people play them. Right, so that was kind of like our hack.
From kind of a labor market point of view, these companies are saying, and let's just accept that they're being earnest, where they want a more diverse workforce. They want to have different points of view reflected in how they come up with ideas and how they approach problems. People in this community need to understand, they need to visualize that there could be tech jobs for them if they got certain skills. If you rewind a certain number of years, it's my understanding that people who live not far from where we're talking just didn't understand that could be a path for them.
Yep.
They didn't see it for them?
Of course not. And that's the thing that was always fascinating. It's like, I said this once, I said, you've got San Francisco on one side of Oakland, and you got Silicon Valley on the other side of Oakland. you know, you can walk to Silicon Valley. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a long walk, but you can walk to Silicon Valley.
Yes, you can.
And you can walk to San Francisco. And it's pretty crazy that you have cities like Richmond, Vallejo, Oakland that are right in the middle of, you know, I mean, this is like the tech capital of the world. And for years, people did not consider, and in some cases still don't consider, careers in tech. It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
I don't really play games, but I play anything.
Yeah.
So you don't play games, but you are here to develop them?
Pretty much, yeah. Don't play them, but make them.
I had collected all this data, and the thing that really struck me was that low-income people of color over-index in games. And they play more, they play for longer periods of time, they tend to have a console in their room. There were all of these like interesting data points that nobody was really capturing. And then interesting data points on how people are kind of getting tired of the lack of diversity in the gaming industry. And I'm like, why are somebody putting these two data points together? For the students, when they walk in, we want them to see our partners and we want them to see our awards. Unity is a partner, Humble is a partner. That's an autograph controller from Tim Schafer from Double Fine. Xbox is obviously a partner. Sledgehammer Games, it does Call of Duty as a partner. PlayStation is a partner. And then we've got a couple of other partners that have yet to give us something, but when they do, we're gonna put it in the display case. So when we started, nobody paid attention to us. Gaming companies ignored us completely. So I said, sooner or later, the tech companies are gonna realize the importance of diversity.
So you're a noob, you know? All right, so how's it feel? Are you fitting in?
Yeah, I have a younger sister. She's 15, 16 now. So she joined Gameheads before me because I told her, oh, I'm interested in computer science or just the tech world in general. And she's like, I got the perfect solution. And she was excited about it. And she's like, and I know you also want to go through almost the same path as me. So she's like, you should go and just sign up and join to see if you like it. I'm so proud. Like, she makes me so happy that she was even able to build a game with a group and team. It's amazing, and I know how much it takes to build a game. Like, when I saw how well she was doing and how happy she was.
This is David Brancaccio. He is the host of the Marketplace Morning Report. So everyone say hello.
How you doing? Nice to meet you.
So that's why I'm like, I'll join you. I'll see what's about.
What's up? How's everyone doing?
It's not at all irritating that you, a military veteran, are a noob at Gameheads and she's a veteran?
No, not at all. I actually look up to her. I'm like, wow, like it's like an exchange of knowledge. I'm proud. Like, I'm okay that she's, you know, she's the veteran and I'm the noob. Yeah.
So how do they find out about you then?
I've always prided myself on this, and I do it a lot less now. My team does. I'm really proud of them for this. Is we go out into the community.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we go to the schools, we go to the churches, we go to the conference centers, we go into the classrooms and we say, hey, you know, who wants to learn how to make a video game?
So every year our students are more like energetic and lively, especially coming out of the pandemic. Everybody wants to talk more, you know, be more active, just have more experiences in person, right? Making content at first was about helping folks understand what the Gameheads community is like. We like to show our content to parents, to the students and their little siblings, just anyone who might be recruited into Gameheads. Now that the noobs are in the space, I want them to really see themselves within the industry. Like, they're embedded in the industry as they hop into Gameheads. We took students to some of these tech events, interview the students, B-roll of them interacting with other professionals. Record that, show that to the new cohort. Let them know that they're not alone, that the vet students are going through this, and that real soon that could be them, giving talks, talking to professionals who worked on the games that they played. And so that's about getting them interested in Gameheads and making them realize that they're part of the tech industry and it's very accessible for them.
Yeah, because I hear that some people from this area would never could visualize themselves in the tech industry. They're like, what would be my role here? And some of your work can actually show it to them.
Yeah, it's also helping them realize that you don't need to be a programmer to be in tech.
If you know anything about California, that's where we underperform. We don't perform well in STEM, even though, you know, we have great universities. Our public institutions, K through 12, they don't perform well. So I said, this is going to be an uphill battle. The question is, what do we perform well in? So like, what do low-income students of color in California perform well in? They perform well in the arts, like visual arts, the physical arts. They're artist animators, they're sound people. Well, when you look at the video game industry, those skills that people just have, they will naturally translate. The mural scene in the Bay Area has been legendary. Musicians that come out of the Bay Area are legendary. We got these amazing athletes that come out of the Bay Area, let alone LA, right? These are things that we know we're good at.
Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined. So y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions y'all want to.
Now, all you have to do is just reintroduce them to the hardware and the software. They fundamentally understand it when they walk into the class, and you have the added benefit of it being the thing that they spend the most time doing.
So did you come in right as you were like a freshman at Berkeley? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How'd you find out about them?
I had a friend who was also a part of Gameheads. They also went to UC Berkeley. We would talk about just kind of like our artistic journeys and where we want to see the end of our artistic careers through. They suggested that I join Gameheads. For them, it had been a tool for them to express themselves artistically as well.
Did you describe yourself as a gamer before?
I definitely played often with my siblings, but I don't think that I would have described myself as a gamer before.
Yeah, so this is not a case of like, I'm a hardcore gamer, I've got to like, this has to be my destiny, I want to make games.
Right. I originally wanted to get into animation and filmmaking, and I still do. I'm still pursuing that pathway, but games had opened up a new avenue for me that I find is really interesting, especially with like the different things that I'm interested in, the communicative language that games can have. I found that really interesting in terms of veering down that path as well.
When I was in the 8th grade, we had like a project thing going on. My mom suggested that I do some coding, and she was like introducing it to me at the time. I created like a tutorial on how to make like the video game Snake on my computer using Python. Which is kind of funny. I'm using Python to make Snake.
Oh, I caught the joke, man. I heard it.
Which, that was my first time I ever created a video game. If you know Smash, a college prep program, and they taught me coding as well. I never quite got it until I came to Gameheads. I feel like I'm actually like learning stuff, and it's really fun learning as well.
I've been with the program for about 9 years now. As a student for like 4 years. As a program coordinator for about 2 or 3 years. What I do now is like I manage the systems. I make sure that students are getting access to resources, making sure that everyone has the same experience that I had the first time. That's something that I want to make sure that other students get that, because I really value that. And I want to make sure that that this program is emboldened more, because there's not that often programs like this. That's the thing I'm always looking for. Are there other programs like this at this capacity that we're doing it with? I tried looking, and there are a few, but not at the capacity that we're at. We recently gone virtual because of COVID, but now that we're hybrid, we're working really well with students, making sure that they're engaged, giving them the safe space that they need in order to feel like they're being valued and being attentive to what they want to do, and feeling like they're in a creative space.
Yeah, we've seen games connected to how to deal with grief, how to deal with psychological challenges, all sorts of things, based in the experience of the students themselves, right?
Yep.
When I use the word economics in here in a minute, I don't mean just the law of supply and demand and that informal Econ 101. I kind of mean transactions between humans, savings, retirement, real estate, career development. Do you think video games are a useful way to explore those topics and actually teach about those topics?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why video games are really useful in teaching really complex topics is because at the end of the day, a video game is just a system. I remember as an educator, we were always trying to teach students about the system, right? We were always trying to teach them about systems of oppression, or how government works, or healthcare, or what have you. And these are really, really complex systems. But if you give a student an RPG, and they have to manage their character, and they have to manage their inventory, or they play something like a Civilization, for whatever reason, they get it. You know what I mean? They understand how to navigate these really complex systems within a video game.
Learning about the economy through video games is complex, but it's possible. I think there's two ways of looking at it. There's like the literal way of like what's the job industry looking like from there, but there's also like actually learning about it. And there's an entire field of educational video games for that. Like there's entire game industry jobs called like game economy designer, where like you'll actually design economies in games, and like you have to use the principles of economics to do that, like supply and demand curves, marginal utility, and all that stuff. That is really, really helpful. But like when it comes to actual like jobs you can get, there's a lot of jobs in games. People really think, oh, I'm just gonna code. And like, that's the very first thought you think when you have a game designer, is like the person who codes. And I get that thought, but there's a lot of stuff. There's audio, there's lighting, there's music. There's game design in the sense of like, what's this experience look like? How do we test it? There's UI, there's QA. There's a bunch of different jobs and roles in the video game industry that's not the first thing that comes to their minds. There's a very big push for programming. There's also a lot of other things, especially in the video game industry, that are possible that people just don't really think of. And I started off as a story designer. And then I ended up going to a game designer, and then I switched to a game designer programmer mix because I ended up getting a computer science degree, and I wanted to focus in on sort of the game design and programming mix.
What do you think? Why did the penny drop here? Why did the light bulb go off here?
Games have been an avenue to kind of thinking about how to teach kids, how to teach people in general, whether it be teaching people about experiences, teaching people about more practical things like teaching kids numbers and languages, and
maybe money.
Teaching kids how to manage money, most definitely. And I didn't know that I was that passionate about education before coming into Gameheads, you know, fresh out of high school, and kind of trying to figure out what I like, what I'm interested in, what I want to do. And being in Gameheads kind of made it more prevalent to me, the ways in which I want to teach people, or the ways in which I want to use my stories or use my experiences and communicate them effectively.
It's all right. Hi, Adonis. You're my only friend. I'm going to sit next to you.
Each summer, we're generally around 70 to 100 students. I think this year we expect that to go up. We do 2 programs. Generally, the Summer Accelerator program is really for the students that have been in the program from January to June. We just accelerate during the summer. And then we do a live program during the summer as well, which is almost like a 15-week conference, if you will. So those numbers have jumped up. What we've seen year over year is we're now breaking records over the last 3 years. So we're having to kind of increase our staff and increase our operation.
What's the commitment for Gameheads?
Well, it's once a week, but I feel like if you want to go like far and beyond, like, and really like show your stuff, because this program, it requires you to actually like try your best, so then you could get like the best out of it. Yeah, you could come by every Saturday, but the commitment is where like you putting stuff into it.
How'd it work for you?
I usually work that stuff at home, but last week I actually came to Gameheads during its week hours, and it was pretty fun. Like, I was collabing with some friends. It was like, the chairs are really nice here, and the computers are like amazing. I'd never had so many monitors before. I only ever worked on one computer, one laptop. Using 2 monitors at the same time really makes a difference.
Did you say the chairs are good?
Yeah.
I noticed that myself. Chairs are pretty good.
Yeah.
What is the student responding to in your unorthodox approach to teaching these concepts? What is it that you do?
So I'm really, really animated. I tend to figure out what people like, and I kind of add it to what we're doing. The gaming piece is already a part of what they like, and I know that. So I know I already kind of got their attention through the gaming piece. But then also I really pay close attention to what they don't learn in school, right? Or what they don't get in school. So cultural studies is like not very relevant in school. Like people don't really spend a lot of time exploring culture. And because we're a diverse program, I love multiculturalism. So I love the opportunity to learn more about students, religion, their ethnic background, everything. I put that into the class.
Gameheads does a really good job of giving you the overview and then letting you build to whatever you want to be. You don't have to be typecast in any particular role.
So you want to be a physician, anesthesiologist. How did it go over when you started saying I'm interested in video games?
My parents actually were really supportive. They didn't particularly care that I wanted to switch. definitely wanted me to share more about what I was doing.
But you can't always, because
yeah.
you're working on stuff that hasn't been released yet.
Yeah.
Ever thought of going a startup route?
I think in the future it's definitely on the table. I think there's more I need to learn.
On the next episode of Skin in the Game.
We teach physicians and doctors how to use medical devices and can learn, get continuing education credits, and learn their craft. I designed it, but I barely could pass it, so I pray for those doctors.
We're not in the offices, we're in the trenches, and we have to collaborate every day, and we're constantly problem solving.
Young people are sort of taught you have to be perfect. That's not how life works. Tech is boom and bust. Tech and entertainment, you're really amplifying, those waves.